Meve and the horseman beside her exchanged a perplexed glance. They'd heard the song clearly, both its tune and its verse. Whoever had hollowed it had to be close, and given their diction, rather well oiled. Moments later, a hamlet appeared to the Lyrians' tired eyes. A great bonfire blazed at its center. Around it danced peasants, barefoot, giggling, hooting, joyful and carefree. One by one, they noticed the queen. Soon, all were silent, huddled together, children peering from behind their backs.
"Fear not,"
said Meve.
"we mean you no harm. What do you celebrate? A lad's grooming? Nuptials?"
"Nay, my lady. Hel'ays. The gods have been kind. Filled us nets and snares with game. Come time we thank them."
Yes. You've things to be thankful for.
"We do, my lady. And we's poor folk. So a queen. Well, you must as well. Your Majesty, stay tonight, feast with us. There'll be music and plenty of rum by the fire."
Grateful as I am for your invitation,
replied the queen.
we must continue on our way.
"Oh, where you be headed in such a rush, my lady?"
Home, my good man. Home.
Meve whistled loudly and spurred her mount. Her men followed, though some grumbling was heard. The peasants, carefree, were back at play. Their lively songs echoed long in the soldiers' minds.
Why not?
Began Meve, daintily dismounting.
We all deserve some respite, I suppose.
The Lyrians needed no convincing. With astonishing haste, they removed mail and helmets, then eagerly joined in the feting and dance. Amidst the trilling of flutes, fifes, and fiddles, all those gathered revelled until dawn. They could rest at last, forget about Nilfgaard and the many beasts that prowled among the reeds. They'd long remember that night. The carefree laughter, peasant maids whirling in dance, the ale cold as a mountain spring, and the bread they crisped over the fire. One exchange in particular etched itself into the queen's mind, an exchange she overheard.
"Not a little? Not even a teeny tiny bit?"
I'll say it again. It's not your concern.
"Of course it's not. Wouldn't be so damn curious if it were. So be it. Keep your silence. But those eyes like the summer sky, that hair like waves of grain. I see the way you gape."
What do you two speak of?
Your Majesty.
Couldn't have answered that better myself.
Who does Reynard gape at?
Ha! The new ballista, what else? Ah, what a piece of work. Pure art, I say. Can't tear your eyes away for an instant.
Haven't you two held enough from me already? Don't play me for a fool. What's this about?
Meve, honestly, you do better to...
It's a private matter, Your Grace. One of the heart, you might say. If you'd allow it, I'd rather not share the details of our conversation.
All right. I'll leave you to discuss whatever men discuss. Consider me gone.
Meve turned and walked back to the fire, sat down on an old stump.
Ha! That was close. Shh!
And the faintest of smiles crossed her lips.
Ah, the ballista, you say?
Precisely.
And what sets this machine apart from the rest? The smoothness of its wood? Its graceful curves and dainty angles?
Majesty, if we may, I'd prefer not...
I understand, Reynard. I know men often discuss the qualities of ballistae. Consider me gone.
Meve turned and walked back to the fire, sat down on an old stump.
Ha! That was close. Shh!
And the faintest of smiles crossed her lips. One exchange in particular etched itself into the Queen's mind.
What about you, Reynard? Not in the mood to celebrate?
No, Your Grace, I'm not.
Well, what is it then? What's the trouble?
I've my reputation to consider. Authority I'd sooner not compromise.
Right. Gods forbid you let your men see the human being inside your armor.
I wouldn't put it that way. But commanders should never be overly familiar with their troops.
Do you mean I can't ask you to dance?
Your Majesty, I'd never dare tell you what you can or cannot do.
You know what I mean.
'Tis not the time for this conversation, Your Grace. But once you win the war, I shall be content to take it up.
Ooh, I can't wait to see that. Reynard happy? Reynard pleased? Find it rather hard to imagine just now. So I'll hold you to it. Hold you to your word, Count Odo.
Yes, Your Majesty. Now, forgive me, I must hear the scouts' reports.
Meve nodded in agreement. She then turned back and gazed into the fire, the faintest of smiles dancing on her lips.
You're right, Reynard. One has to maintain a distance.
I'm glad we agree. Your Grace, I'd like to hear the scouts' reports, with your permission.
Of course, Reynard. You can go.
Reynard nodded and disappeared into darkness. Meve turned back and gazed into the fire, consumed by thought. One exchange in particular etched itself into the Queen's mind.
What about you, Meve? Not a dancer at all?
I don't know these steps. Learnt the waltz from my governesses, but nothing quite like this, I'm afraid.
Of course, I might have guessed. The Countess de Marquise's code of etiquette. 'Twould never sanction partaking in such base provincial diversions.
Gods, that old witch. You know, I don't think I can even remember the last time I heard her name.
The dirt lie lightly upon her.
Wait a minute. How do you know of the Countess de Marquise?
Sorry?
Don't be coy with me. Wild men who prowl the underbrush are never taught courtly etiquette.
Frankly, I don't recall. Wager I overheard it somewhere.
And the way you speak, your wording. Did you overhear that as well?
Leave me be, Meve.
Haven't you been secretive enough already?
Trust me, this is wholly different.
I don't want to trust anymore, I want to know.
Haven't always been a brigand. Had a different life before. The kind of life where the Countess de Marquise's advice actually served the purpose.
Oh my gods! Are you suggesting that the Duke of Dogs is a blue blood? Truly?
Is that really so funny, Meve?
I'm sorry. Normally you're the first to mock, well, virtually all things. And I just didn't know that...
Let's change the subject, shall we?
Meve stayed beside Gascon a few moments longer, but their conversation quickly waned. Finally, the Queen returned to the fire and stood consumed by thought.
Fine, so be it.
I thank you
What for?
for agreeing not to dwell. I'll tell you everything. Sometime, perhaps, but not tonight. Not just yet.
Meve stayed beside Gascon a few moments longer, but their conversation quickly waned. Finally, the Queen returned to the fire and stood consumed by thought. Meve expected the villagers to request recompense for their welcome, yet the peasants made not the slightest mention of coin, and the Queen was much moved by their kindness. Once again, those with the least had proved the most willing to share. The Lyrians did not assemble come the morn. The force marched off in the afternoon, unshaven, unbathed, dishevelled. Not normally one to overlook contempt for discipline, that day Meve understood even soldiers needed to let their guard down, at times.
Admire, admire, ample harvest yield, for our mistress all need be kneeled. Round my garden appeared a need eagerly, and I offered a drink,
Ugly bad, play us more your prose. Sing again, we'll dance a bit, and then we'll fix your nose.